bit deeper? Yes? Are we doing okay? Okay. So here's what I hope to do in this session. So I want to give you now one layer deeper. So if you ask me how do we grow, the first answer I would give you is you have to have clarity of vision. That's the first answer I give you. But then once that vision is clear, here's the second thing that I think growing churches do, and is they have systems that deliver that vision. So that's the next layer of this study now, is now we have to create a system. And by the way, every church has a system. It just may or may not be delivering the vision. I mean, the pastor who was speaking, 70 minutes every Sunday, that was his system. It just wasn't working, right? And everything is a system. You can't, you wanted to come to this conference today, and you created a set of events and processes that got you here, right? So you took a shower, perhaps, and got dressed and got in a car or whatever. All that was the system that delivered the fact that you wanted to be here at a certain time. So what made it a good system? The fact that you're here, right? So, and again, I'm just trying to make sure you understand that that's all that it really is that we want to create something that's actually getting something done, and stop doing the things that aren't getting anything done. And I actually have a business degree, and I honestly think a lot through the lens of business leadership. I probably still read maybe 3 to 1 business books over Christian books, just because I enjoy reading Christian material, but I just love learning leadership and learning business. And a book that really was a defining book for my life was a book by a guy named Michael Gerber, Gerber, called The E-Myth. And it's called The E-Myth, the letter E-myth, the E-Myth. And the E-Myth the E stands for entrepreneurial. And let me give you, I'll save you 3 days of reading. I'll give it to you in 3 minutes, okay? And basically, what the E-myth is, the entrepreneurial myth is if you have a great product, you'll have a great business. So if you can make something better than what's out there, then you'll be the most successful in that thing. And that's a myth. It's not true. And that's why the greatest businesses in the world don't necessarily make the best product in their field. So then the question is, then what makes them the greatest business in the world? And it's not the product. It's their delivery of the product. It's their ability to get it to you is what makes a company great. And one of the case studies that they use in the book is McDonald's. We've already heard about McDonald's, but honestly, no one has ever said that's the best hamburger I've ever had in my life. Yet, it's the largest hamburger franchise in the world. So obviously, again, the product is not what's making them great. And honestly, the genius of McDonald's was never the product. The genius of McDonald's was, let's see if we can get it to the customer faster. Let's see if we can create a drive-through experience. Instead of a line, let's have 6 cash registers, 6 lines at a time. We can process things so they can get it to them quickly. And then they've grown it. They put a playground now, and they made a Happy Meal with a toy. And they're not thinking about how to make a better burger. They're thinking about how to make a better system that's delivering the burger. And I think we have to think that way, by the way. And we think that way with ARC. We're trying to think of a way not to create more Church of the Highlands churches. Can we give church planters something that every church planter can actually do and repeat? By the way, that's what makes a great system. Is it reproducible? Can everybody do it? It's creating like a prototype. Great systems are created by considering your business a prototype, and could others do what you're doing? And honestly, that's one of my observations of the Hillsong model, because I have studied it intently. I personally think that they are some of the best especially on the Sunday experience. I think they're still better than us, by the way. And every time I come to a Hillsong experience, I pick up another tip. And really, they don't love Jesus more than me. They don't preach a different Bible than me. They just deliver it in a certain way. And every time I come, I learn, there's another piece of that puzzle. And I'll implement that delivery mechanism of something that I already love and believe into that and watch some great things happen. Are you following me, yes or no, everybody? Okay. And that's why in great systems, by the way, they won't let you change much of it. So in the McDonald's world, that's why the hamburger tastes the same in South Africa and in America and in Moscow. Because you put 2 pickles, not 3, not 1, not 5, 2. And so they take you through a process. So here's what I suggest to church planters and to pastors, and that is take proven systems and just replicate them until you're able to put your own DNA and do something else that is actually better. But don't say, well, we know better and we're going to do it our way, but nobody's buying your burger. Now, if everybody's buying your burger, teach all of us. I will gladly, honestly, give you the mic and I will learn because I want to get better. But I think we learn from proven models. And by the way, check it out. Those models don't stay where we left them. So what worked 20 years ago will not work today. It's amazing. I actually did music. I've been doing music in church for 34 years. I was classically trained in piano, and I've led worship. And I love watching the evolution of music. But there are some people that they'll say it in our church, well, we want traditional music. I said, for instance. And they'll say something like Amazing Grace, which when Amazing Grace came out, was rejected in the church as being too contemporary. It was actually the tune of Amazing Grace came out of the pubs. It was considered secular music, and then 100 years later, we call it traditional. It's so funny to me sometimes. And that's somebody who's more in love with the system than I just want people to worship Jesus. So we have to come back to are y'all following what I'm trying to say? I'm working this hard because I think it's really, really important. So when I give you systems, they're just where we currently are at, and I'm not in love with any of these. I'm in love with the vision. But let me give you the 4 systems that we use now in our church. And again, I need 3 days to teach this adequately. When I do a grow, and by the way, I'll invite you to come to America if you'd like to come to be a part of the grow experience. I will tell you that it fills up about a year in advance, this particular seminar that we do, and it's filling rather quickly right now. For next July, it'll be July 31st through August 2nd is when we do it in America, and it does fill up very, very quickly. We do scholarship pastors and leaders of churches that are smaller who just need some help to get there. We this past year we gave away about $130,000 just in travel expenses for hotels and our airfares and car rentals, because I want to help the guy who actually can't afford to be there. I don't need to help the guys that got it all figured out. We want to help these churches. And so if you want to be a part of that, the website is growleader.com. All of our resources are there for download. So everything we use to train leaders and to do groups or anything we do is there, and you just take it. We've designed every bit of it without our logo on it so that you can put yours on it, make it yours, tweak it, change it, use it, claim it. I don't care. Just make it work and enjoy. So, but if we're going to deliver this component of people coming to faith in Jesus, let me tell you, in America, hands down, there's not even a close second, the best way to do it is a life-giving Sunday service, a church service. So that's still the best way. More people are coming to Christ in America, not through door-to-door evangelism, and that method actually worked 40 years ago. Not through crusades. That method worked during the Billy Graham generation. That method does not work that well anymore in America because it's a system that worked, but it stopped working. And so you have to be willing to change. Hands down, more people are coming to faith in Jesus in a worship service where they see passionate Christianity and they see clear gospel presentation in a service where Christians are still getting fed, but not at the expense of the lost people being even more lost after they're there. So we call it, we create, here's how we would say it, and that is what we do is we create weekend church services that lost people and church people love to attend. They both enjoy it. Now, I'll tell you what it does require. It requires us to go just a bit slower, so we don't assume everybody knows who Moses is. So we may take another minute to describe some of the characters. In fact, it just reminded me again. We had a Sunday service, and after the service, I was just hanging out around the front, shaking hands with people, and this girl walked up. She was about 22, I guess. She looked about that old. She goes, this is my first time. I said, great, well, good to meet you. And I said, did you like it? She goes, oh, yeah, I'm new to all this. I said, great. Well, she goes, I liked it. And I use a little monitor on stage, and actually I can point to the scripture. And I have this, the Bible, the scriptures, and so I can point to. Because I consider myself more of a teacher than a preacher, so I enjoy really kind of engaging with the text. And she goes, I love the way you had that monitor on stage, pointing to the Bible verses. I said, great, thank you. She goes, but at the bottom, it always had like a person's name and some numbers. I said, what do you mean? She goes, like Matthew and like a 10 and then a dot and like another number. She goes, what is all that? What is that? This is America. We're in the Bible Belt of America, where I live. And she didn't know what the dot meant. And I said, well, the name is usually the person that the Holy Spirit used to write it. Like Matthew was the person who actually wrote that particular book of the Bible. There's 66 books. And it says, and it came together all as one text. So the earlier translators, they actually separated it into chapters, and that's the first number, and then dot verse, so we could find stuff easier. She goes, that's brilliant. She goes, did you think of that? I said, I sure did. And I mean, come on, y'all. There are people in our churches who don't know what the dot means. So we just don't assume anyone ever knows. We just go ahead and explain things, and we welcome people into the experience, and we explain why we worship the way we do. We just take our time and realize we have guests in our house. Let's make them feel comfortable. Let's think of things. So we just kind of go a little. And here's the second thing we have to do to create great experiences, and that is don't do everything you know how to do. So you don't have to do everything you know how to do on a Sunday service. Now, again, I already told you, I grew up in a kind of a Pentecostal charismatic expression, and we did everything we knew how to do in church. So if we knew how to cast the devil out of you, we did it in church. If we knew how to pray for the sick, we did it in church. We did our full package on Sunday. Listen to me. You don't have to do your full package on a Sunday. In my opinion, the whole goal of Sundays for us now is just to get them to buy in. And once they buy in, I will take them on a journey where they'll get the full package of all that God has for them. But you don't have to do everything you know how to do. I'm afraid if we do everything we know how to do on a Sunday, we scare them off sometimes. And I'll give you an example. If you're going to buy a brand new car, they don't take you to the place behind the place where they're selling all the cars. They don't take you to the place in the back where they're fixing the broken ones. Now, it exists, and you're going to end up there, but they don't sell it to you by showing you the broken ones. But it still exists. In fact, there's a parts department and a service department, right? That you can come in, and it's greasy and dirty and nasty, and it's broken. And they make it right, but they show you the clean new ones, right? And they offer you something. May I offer you a beverage, please, sir? They get you to buy in, right? And then once you bought in, then they're going to take you you're going to end up in the parts department, in the service department. Are y'all following what I'm trying to say? I'm just saying, let's just be a little more wise in our experiences on the weekend and understanding how is the unchurched person even swallowing all this, and can we create an experience that unchurched people love to attend? So that's that. I mean, that's our system right now. Is giving people an opportunity, and we close every service, regardless of what I'm talking about. We close with that opportunity for them to receive Jesus, and we've even created a system for that. I mean, we have them pray and make that decision in their seats. We have them actually follow up on themselves right there in their seats. I mean, when we pray the sinner's prayer with people, we say, now, if you just prayed that prayer with us for the first time, there's a card in your chair there. Would you grab that card, and would you let us know you just prayed that prayer? And we actually receive our offering last. It's the last part of our service, so we can get those cards. Because we learned because I created a system, and it didn't work. And here was our old system. If you just gave your heart to Jesus, we have a table out there in the foyer, or we'd like to get you to go do this, or we'd like you to grab that, or go there. And about 30%, we'd have this many hands, and 30% go to the table. And I asked somebody who didn't go to the table once, I said, why didn't you go to the table? And they said, oh, I had 5 kids in the nursery and my number was already coming up the whole service, and right? So they're not bad people. We just created too many steps for them to do something. So we just changed the system. We made it where they make the decision, and they've actually filled out their own follow-up card right there in the seat. And then we receive an offering, and they never had to move. And we literally went from 30% to 100% of the hands that go up. We get that many. Literally get that same number of cards. It's another example of keep tweaking your system until it's delivering what you expect it to deliver. Are we doing okay, everybody? I would love to talk all day on how to create a weekend experience that unchurched people love to attend. But let me move on to the second one. Because now we want people to find freedom. So that's know God. And now we want people to find freedom. How do we do that? How can people find true freedom? So again, I would need a half a day to really do this justice. But suffice it to say, true freedom can only come fully in one component, and that is if you involve other people. So God's system for people finding freedom is relationships. And I'm going to prove it to you with one verse. Okay? So if you're, I want you, by the way, as you're thinking through with this with me, think about your own issue. So I have issues I'm still trying to work on. So if I was to get those right, how would I get those right? How would I find freedom from my current addictions or habits or issues? How would I? Hands down, nobody really can disagree that as soon as I involve a trusted friendship relationship with the knowledge of that issue and I come into accountability with that person, my success of finding true freedom skyrockets. James 5:16. Confess your faults, not to God. Confess your faults, not to God, one to another. Pray for each other and you will be healed. So you confess your faults to God for forgiveness. 1 John 1:9, if we confess our sins, he's faithful and just to forgive us and cleanse us from all unrighteousness. So only God can forgive you, but you got to have God's people for you to be healed. So and that's why our system is the small group. The small group. Now, usually when we talk about small groups, and by the way, of all the systems we teach, this is the one that churches learn the slowest, honestly. For some reason, there's a barrier to the whole group dynamic. Most churches have basically said if we have 30% of our church in groups, we'll call that a win. And I'm saying, no, we need 100% of your church in groups. And I spent, of the 34 years that I've been in ministry, 20 of them have been frustrated with the whole group dynamic because I totally believe in it, and I could never figure out a system that would actually work. And I have been tweaking this for 20 years. I've tweaked it for 20 years. And I'm not saying this boldly. I'm just saying this, thank God we finally have, at least for now, have figured it out because we actually have more people in groups than on Sundays. We have about 48,000 people in about 5,000 small groups in our church right now, and not that many even attend our weekends. And it's because we have convinced people, we figured out a system that works in our culture, and I would love to take time to share that with you in more detail, but I honestly need about another hour or so to give you there's about 10 key components to making small groups work. But here's what I do want to tell you. Don't stop trying. Don't stop tweaking your systems. Keep going every place where it is working and taking those ideas, because trust me, your people cannot be healed if you do not get the dynamic of James 5:16 going on in their life. And by the way, I can prove it. Because we think, oh no, I'll just get them in church. Church doesn't change people's lives. Church makes you want to change. It can be a catalyst for change. But if it really changed your life, then tell me the last 10 sermons you've ever heard. And you can't. And tell me and you preached them. That's funny. Anyway, I can't name you the last 10 I preached. That's how impactful they were. You're right. I don't even know them. But I can tell you 10 people who've impacted my life, good or bad, right now. Because write this down, life change happens in the context of relationships. Life change happens in the context of relationships. Always has, always will. So my encouragement to you is you do have to create a system that involves relationships in order for life to change. One more comment, we move on, but check it out. Your whole church is in small groups. They're just not your groups. because the whole world groups. That's what they do. You're going to do it in the lunch break. You're going to get with 3 or 4 people, and you're going to process, and you're going to talk, and you're going to learn, and you're going to share. And then hopefully you're going to get close enough to have what Pastor Greg and I have, and Pastor Phil and I have, and people that are friends to me, is they can see what's really behind the mask. And that's when you really find healing, when you can say, guess what I'm really dealing with? Can I tell you what I really am thinking? And when you have the confidence to pull the mask off in front of somebody, the Bible says, faithful are the wounds of a friend. When somebody can come to you and not only share wounds, but even say, for Pastor Greg to say, Chris, I need you to work on this because you don't realize you do this or say this, but you do this a lot and it's hurting people's feelings. And I'm like, I really do? And yes, and I take it. I can take it. I can't take it from you because I don't know you. And if you came up to me and corrected me, honestly, I would throw it out because I don't know you. But if he said it, I'll go, okay, I got you because I know you love me. Are you following what I'm saying, everybody? We create that dynamic in our church. I would love to spend the rest of the day talking about groups, but we can't. All right, so here's the third system. And this is the system that is kind of, I don't know, a lot of churches now are grabbing. I had a pastor this weekend tell me that he's implemented our growth track. That's the third system, a growth track, to help people discover their purpose. That he implemented this system and his church doubled in 1 year. We're hearing that a lot, that if you'll have a system for people to discover their gifts, you just need a system for people to discover their purpose. So what we do, we sat down and we didn't think about like how many classes do we want to make it. We actually asked ourselves, how few can we have for people to discover their purpose? And we brought it down to they need four classes to discover their purpose. And so we have a monthly growth track that we ask people to attend that has I need 4 Sundays. I don't need the rest of your life. I need 4 Sundays. You pick a Sunday. You pick some month to go through these 4 steps, and we will help you go through this third step in your spiritual journey, and that is to discover the purpose that God has for you. And for us, that first step is all about them getting involved in a local church, and we give them, in our step 1, we give them our membership class. We give them, here's what it looks like to be a part of Church of the Highlands. And actually, that's where we share with them the vision. We say, God wants you to know him and be in relationships with others and to discover your purpose and make a difference. They get the vision. I actually teach it because we're 16 locations now. We teach it on video, but I update it about every 3 months just to keep it fresh. But every member comes through there, and we talk about just the vision of our church, and tell some fun stories. We talk about our government. We talk about our doctrine. I mean, just everything that matters to a member in that step 1. They come back the second Sunday, and we actually take them through a spiritual gift and personality profile. And now we want them to see the uniqueness. The whole philosophy of step 2 is that design reveals your destiny. God's designed you in a unique way, and we're going to discover it. In step 3, we teach them the leadership culture of our church, and I don't have time to get into that much, but we just kind of explain to them, here's what it looks like when you begin to serve, and here's what we expect of people who are going to be on team. And then in step 4, they actually pick one of 31 different teams to go serve on. And they go to that first opportunity. But you don't have to do it that way. If you want to do it that way, take ours, tweak it. It's all online. You can use it. All the classes, you can actually go watch me teach them if you want to. You can have all the materials for all 4 of those. But you do need to create a way for people to discover their purpose. So if you don't leave with anything else, leave with that. I'm urging you that, listen to me, the people in your church that know God and are experiencing the freedom that comes in God, they have a divine enablement, a charis. They have a grace gift on the inside of them. Do you believe that? Yes or no? Yes? God put it inside of them. You ready for this? This is a horrible statistic I'm getting ready to quote. It's probably similar here in South Africa. But in America, 87% of the body of Christ does not know what that gift is. Let me say it this way. 87% of the body of Christ does not know what body part they are. Let me say it this way. Imagine what your body would look like if 87% of it didn't know what it was. And we wonder why the church is invalid, not functioning. It's because they don't know who they are. So we give them this beautiful gift of helping them discover their purpose in life. Are you following this? Yes? So weekend services help them know God. Small groups help them find freedom. For us, a 4-step class process helps them discover their purpose. And then our system for people making a difference is serving on a team. We call it the dream team. We want people, we don't like to call them volunteers. I personally don't like the word volunteer because the volunteerism that I grew up in was the pastor has a vision. We need your help. Be a good person and come serve. And I don't really want the thought being, I don't have a vision for my life, so I'll just come serve yours, Pastor. I would rather people know that they have a dream and a call inside of them, and they're out there really following what they discovered in that third purpose. Are you following what I'm saying, everybody? I just like the concept of people seeing themselves as a part of a team doing what they were created to do. And so, anyway, that's just my own personal thing, but whatever words work for you in your culture, you, in my opinion, you have to create a way for people to get saved. You have to create a way, a system for people to experience some level of freedom, and I think it has to involve a relational component. Then you have to create a way for them to discover their gifts, and then create a way for them to be involved in your ministries in some way. So they're making a difference in this world, and it's our joy. That process is going on all the time in our church, and it literally is one of the joys of our lives. And so what I want to do in the last 15 minutes, because I've covered a lot, and I usually need 2 or 3 days to teach these. I actually do a complete session on each one of those by themselves. But what I want to do just in the last couple of minutes before we take a break is just, we have about 4 microphones out in the audience from some of the team here at Hillsong. And if you have something you want me to clarify just before because you're getting ready to head to lunch break, and you're going to discuss some of this stuff. And then after we get back from lunch, Pastor Paul will come up and tell us about lunch break and how long we're going to be gone. And then Pastor Greg is going to come up and give you some more. And then I'll finish at the end. I'm going to tell you what I've learned. I'm going to give you the trump card of everything I've shared with you. I'm going to tell you that if I've told you everything I've told you, there's something that you can do that if you didn't do anything I told you, it trumps everything else. I'm gonna give you the trump card, most important thing I've ever learned in church work in the afternoon, and then we'll have more Q&A. But do you have a question or something? We have about 10 minutes or so. Slip up a hand. There's one right. Pastor Lucinda has one right here on the front row, and if you have something you want me to clarify, yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Pastor Chris. This is amazing. I forgot to ask you this, so I wanted to ask now. What do you do for the people who first-time decision for Jesus? Okay. Do they go straight into your growth track, or do they go into a group, or what do you do?
So this is very different in America than most places in the world, because in America, people have been, a lot of people have a church experience. So like 80% of the American population have a church experience that's negative, and a lot of that negativity came in the follow-up methods. So they didn't like it. So now, unfortunately, we have this effect where if you follow up the wrong way, it actually hurts the cause. So like they hate phone calls. They hate knocks on the door when they were not invited. Where honestly, even in America 30 years ago, that worked. You could actually do phone visitation. You could follow up on the phone. So what I'm telling you may not be culturally relevant here. Because we have that dynamic going on, we have found that the most solid Christians happen if we just give them clear path and they follow up themselves. So they know what steps to take next. So when people give their life to Jesus, I say, no one's going to call you. No one's going to visit you. If you give me your name and address, I will send you 4 next steps. And honestly, Lucinda, if they'll do any one of the 4, we got them. And they're like, go get water baptized, get in a small group, join the church, or go to the growth track. If they'll do, and we do all 4 because they only end up doing one of the 4. And all 4 of those point to the other 3. So if they get baptized, the person there is going to say, hey, are you in a group yet? Oh, no, we'll help you. So and they get in a group, the group leader is going to say, hey, have you been baptized yet? No, oh, we'll go with you. So they're all pointing at the other, and that's how we get them. And we have a very high rate, but we actually have people follow up on themselves. So, but we call it anonymity with a clear path is what we call it. They're allowed to remain anonymous, but we make the path extremely clear. And then again, they just we give them 4 and we just want them to do 1, and every one of those points to the other 3. So that's how we do it, yeah. And if they'll do any of those 4, they're in the church solidly, yeah. So great question, thank you. Any other thoughts right here in the front row? Stand up and tell me who you are, please.
Cool. Hi, my name is Sebastian.
Where are you from?
From South Africa, serving your church.
Great.
Cool. What I wanted to ask is, in terms of the systems that you say you have, how do you keep them fresh to a point where it doesn't get to a place where people get used to them?
Very good question.
You know what I mean?
And honestly, it's the session I'm going to give you this afternoon, and I'll give you a little
okay.
teaser. And that is, you see how passionate I am about all this? That's the answer of all systems. In the pastor, I mean, I preach this vision every Sunday. I passionately believe in the relational context that you cannot experience true freedom if you don't get close to another one of God's people and have a place where you can take that mask off and get some freedom. So I preach it passionately, and then the people who are leading these classes and these 4 steps of the growth track, they have to have that same level of passion. Honestly, passion is what fuels ministry. All ministry is fueled by the fact that we love lost people and we love seeing people get saved. And so you have to have, you embrace. It can never become just this formula and you put it on cruise control and you sit back and just watch it. No. It takes the emotion and the passion and the energy for all of it. And then we constantly, and everything, Pastor, everything we do is we look at it and every week we ask ourselves, can we do it better? Can we do it better? And I will tinker with something. If we can turn the screw and get another horsepower out of that engine, we'll do it, man. We're constantly looking. So I bring in teams all the time, and we just talk, hey, how can we make this better? How can we make this better? And let me give you a great question to ask. I'm going to give you my favorite question in the whole world to ask your staff. It's my favorite question in the whole world. If you go home, if you don't do anything else but go home and answer this question, you're welcome. That was funny. That was really funny. I'm very serious. You will thank me if you'll just go home, get your closest team together, and answer this question. You ready for it? Here it is. Let me say it to you first, and then I'll give you a chance to write it down. What one thing, if it got better, would make the biggest difference in our church? Let's sit in a room for an hour and answer that question. What one thing, if it got better, would make the biggest difference in our church? And we answer that question every single week. Because you ready for this? I'm gonna let you write it down. I need your eyes for this illustration. This will be a crude illustration, but if you can imagine a bucket, a wooden bucket, and it's got low slats. It's got all these wooden slats in the bucket, but one of them is low, and all the rest of them are high. The water level is running out at the level of the lowest slat in the bucket, right? Okay. Everybody, Church of the Highlands included, has a low slat in their bucket. There's one place where the water's running out. And so we don't fix 20 things, we fix one thing, and it raises the level of the whole. If you always need to know what one thing we're all working on to get better in. And you can go to my team right now, they will all give you the same answer because we're talking about it all the time. And that's some of the things that just keeps us passionate about things is that we never leave things as they are. We always assume they're not going to stay where we put them, and we're going to keep passion in it and grow it. And so that's a great kind of a principle and a tip at the same time. So any other thoughts before we take a lunch break right over here? Quick. Yes. Introduce yourself to everybody.
My name's Greg. I'm here at Hillsong Church.
And he led worship this morning for us. Thank you very much for that.
You're very
and
welcome.
All the great applause by these people that loved and appreciated your gift and your ministry.
I was just curious, how do you keep your team members accountable to sticking with the systems that you've put in place?
So we keep them accountable by every week we are measuring all of those. So I can tell you how well we're doing, and they're not always at the place where I want them to be, but I can tell you where we are. You know, the Bible says, know well the condition of your flocks, give full attention to your herds. We all need to know. We're all counting the money, because again, you count what matters. So why not count the number of people in groups? Why not count the people? And it always says something to us. For instance, if you don't count, you'll think you're doing better than you are. And I'll give you an example. if you would have asked me before they told me this number, how many people are we water baptizing? I'd have said, man, tons. Because it really, honestly, it looks like a lot of people. Come to find out, 3 years ago, we had a lot of people getting saved, and water baptism percentage-wise was actually going down. And they brought me this report, and I read these reports every week just for fun. I think it's great. I love knowing all this stuff. I want to know. And I thought, my goodness, this is a problem. It's not even flatline. It's going down percentage-wise. And so here's a great tip for you. Anytime we have something in our world that's broken, not happening to the degree we want it, we always do two things. We do what I call an internal audit. And I get together 5 people, and I say, you have 2 weeks to study us to see if we changed anything that made that go down. So are we announcing it differently? Did we move the time we baptize? Something in our system had to have changed for it to actually go down. You 5 have an assignment. You have 2 weeks to come with a list of things we have done differently. Maybe I've stopped talking about it from the pulpit. Internally audit us, and that's your assignment. Then I get 5 more people, and you're going to do an external audit. Go find me 5 churches who baptize more people than us. Come back with a list. You got 2 weeks to give me the biggest, longest list you can find. And then we put the meeting of 10 together. We met 2 hours. We had 30 things on the list. We implemented 12 of our ideas that came from both lists. So it was 30 things on a list. We implemented 12, and baptisms went up 400% the next year. And that's an actual true story. And it's just we needed to and we had done some things differently internally, and there were a bunch of churches who were doing it way better than us. And it's just that culture of, we actually think it's loads of fun. We have popcorn and soft drinks while we're doing all this. And to us, this is a blast. And that's how we stay accountable, is we're constantly measuring what we're doing, and we love the exercise of getting better. So, yeah. Way in the back, we're getting some questions now. Yes, sir. Tell me who you are.
My name's Sean. I'm at a church here in Cape Town.
Great. Thanks, Sean.
Question, you've dropped one of the modules of your Grow Track, and you've implemented the leadership week.
Right.
Why?
Oh, so you know us real well. Yeah. So we have our recent last year's answer to the question of what one thing needed to change to get better is the growth track. Now, it was producing a lot for us, but I was never convinced. I was convinced that it could get better. And one of the modules, one of the 4 steps used to be like a discipleship course, a foundations course, where we tried to help people understand the Bible and prayer. And I've always, for 15 years, have been frustrated with that one because I don't think you can do it in an hour. So we took that module out and turned it into an 8-week small group curriculum. So it's still there, it's just in groups now. And so now new believers go slowly through how to read your Bible and pray and give. And so we took it out of the Grow Track, and we needed something else in its place. And I asked the team, I said, what's missing in the Grow Track? And they said, you're not explaining how hard it actually is to be a leader. I said, really? They said, yeah, you're assuming that they really are up to this leadership level, like the lifestyle we're expecting of leaders and, you know, the honor code. And they said, we think you need to put in a whole lesson just on the leadership culture of our church, and we have. And we're already seeing, we're at about 40% increase in our growth track since we've made these little tweaks. So it's still delivering the vision. We haven't changed our vision. It's still helping a person discover their purpose. We just have changed some of the components. So thank you for good catch. Good job, Sean. He knows us. Yes. Tell me who you are, please.
Roseanne. My question is, where is baptism in your systems?
So for us, we baptize every first Sunday after every service at every campus. So, and then we offer about 6 times a year just big day baptisms, like the Sunday after Easter, for instance, or after any of our events. Like if we have a men's event, men's conference, we always end it with a baptism, or student conference, we end it with a baptism. So we put it in a lot of places, but systematically, everybody knows that baptism takes place on the first Sunday of every month after every service. So there's a lot of ways to do that, but that's where we have landed right now. So there's a bunch of them. Yep. Right here in the front. Tell me your name, please.
My name's Wendy.
Hey, Wendy.
Thank you so much for all your pouring in. It's really
I'm
incredible.
honored to do it.
The question I have is, how do you balance serving where the need is versus waiting to find out how you're uniquely gifted?
So say that again.
So, for instance, our culture is just you serve where the need is, God will work it out, and as you go, it'll all pan out. But kind of what I'm hearing from your growth track is you sort of people wait to take the class to really find out how they're gifted and then get slotted in. So how do you balance those two?
So, first of all, the growth track only takes a month, so it's not the slowest thing in the world, okay? So, I mean, we move people through very quickly. I think you do somebody a disservice if you put them in an area where they have need, but they're not gifted to do it. So, like, we have a need in children's church, but they don't like kids. You're going to hurt your children. You didn't help your children's church. You hurt it because they don't like kids. They're not gifted there. And I think it's one of the worst things, honestly, you can do. We call it in church work, we call it gift-oriented ministry. That if you don't have people in gift-oriented ministry, so where their ministry is connected to their gifting, first of all, they'll do it faithfully and they burn out very fast because they don't love it. So now you're calling, hey, don't forget, tomorrow's your day, you need to be there. You don't have to do that to a person you've let them be in their gift area. To which I know what you're thinking, yeah, but we have this need. And listen to me, Jesus is head of the church. And he put the gifts inside of the body of Christ. And I know you're not going to believe this, but it's 100% true. Everything you need is already in your church. So don't recruit it, discover it. Don't recruit it, discover it. It's there. Trust me, it's there. So let me say it this way, all the people you need for kids' church is in your church. And honestly, if we had nobody in our church who loved kids, we just wouldn't have a kids' ministry. I would take that as a sign from God that we weren't supposed to have one. Honestly, I'm very serious. And conversely, if God sends me somebody, like we weren't going to do prison ministry. It wasn't even on my radar. But God sent us this whole group of people who were passionate about it. And they built this whole prison thing. And honestly, I more empowered the leaders God sent me than had the idea myself. And that's a real important principle for us as church leaders to have. We're going to finish on that one, Pastor.